No, but I said, what's up? Like, what's going on in your life? You said, not much.
I was like, not much. I know. I thought the fact that I was wearing a denim vest would be all the rage. Would be all the
You thought
news.
that was going to be the news there.
But then Blake shows up, uninvited, I might add.
Oh.
I thought she's just been pounded, and it turns out that she's like
she's
6 months pregnant or something. You know, I got to get way more hands-on at home.
You thought, You thought it was going to be the denim vest. It wasn't.
No, I thought that was going to be the lead story. But
Hi, besties. How are you? Ryan Reynolds has stated in interviews that he has a maladaptive coping mechanism, which is to deflect. It's how he handles criticism and it's how he maintains his ego. Deflection. He has said that he has an insatiable need for outward validation. So much so, he describes his insatiable need from validation from fans to be equivalent to having a substance use disorder. Better than using certain substances, he said. The high he gets from being famous and the validation he gets. And apparently he is willing to chase that high so much so and deflect so much that his own misdeeds on sets have been largely ignored by the public and the media in the United States. And perhaps it's because Ryan has been riding this parallel trajectory where he's a star in the US, but he's also a celebrity in Canada. And the Canadian celebrity news and the news in the United States are not the same. And things that happen in Canada that are reported on in Canada might not get reported on often here. And then there are films that he has in the United States. And when tragedies have occurred on the sets of the films, it would appear again that Ryan Reynolds and his team find a way to make sure it's not a headline, the same way it was a headline in Canada. If you know anything about Ryan Reynolds, is right now this unsafe work environment that he's putting on Justin Baldoni is likely a deflection tactic of his own failures as a production company and as a producer himself. In fact, most people know about what happened on the set of Deadpool 2 in Vancouver in 2017. So filming commenced in 2017, start the filming of the movie Deadpool 2, okay? Deadpool 2 was coming off of the enormous hit of Deadpool, which premiered in 2016. And Deadpool 2 was going to be bigger and better and have more of a budget. So you would have thought they would have had all the safety protocols and everything in place, but they didn't. And on August 14th, 2017, a stunt driver named Joy Harris, or Saquana Joy Cook Harris, passed away after an accident on a motorcycle when she was riding a motorcycle out of the convention center in Vancouver. And following a turn and driving down a ramp, right before they did this stunt, they decided to add a second ramp, not considering that adding the second ramp might impact that of the bike. Instead of the bike being able to stop, it went airborne and accelerated. And movements that caused the bike to go out of control caused the driver and her body to accelerate the bike even further, which ultimately resulted in her being launched from the motorcycle into a tree and then into a glass window. And she passed away. And Ryan was not named in the report, which was done by Workplace BC, but Vancouver 20th Century Fox Vancouver Productions, Fox US Productions 56, and 20th Century Fox Film Corporation were all cited as violating the law in British Columbia after an exhaustive investigation found violations of safety and workplace safety on the set. Those included failure to ensure the health and safety of all workers by failing to identify the hazards and assess the control and risks of work activity and failing to provide adequate supervision, failure to ensure the operator complied with regulation by wearing safety headgear while operating the motorcycle, failure to ensure the health and safety of the operator by failing to provide adequate supervision with respect to the work activity, failure to provide the operator with new worker orientation, and instructing the operator to wear safety gear while operating the motorcycle. As a result of those findings, they were fined by Workplace BC almost $300,000. Now, this report was heavily redacted, and names of the individuals at Fox and the producers that they interviewed, none of these names were public, but the overwhelming issue was that they failed to assess the risk. They even failed down to determining whether or not the motorcycle, the Ducati that they used, was an appropriate motorcycle for the stunt. The stunt driver also didn't have experience with the kind of work that she was tasked and asked to do, even though she was an experienced driver. And despite clear issues and known issues to head trauma that can be caused through motorcycles, and they encouraged her not to wear a helmet because in the movie the character would not be wearing a helmet, and that ultimately led to her death. Now that story of Joy Harris's tragic death that was negligently caused due to the safety violations on the job of 20th Century Fox and Reynolds was tied to this film. Ryan skated and subsequently received next to no backlash for that, okay? But he hasn't been back to Vancouver since. He filmed both Deadpool 1 and 2 in Vancouver, and he hasn't gone back because according to sources I've spoken to, including Richard Fedek, who happens to be the photographer, Fedek let me know that any insurance for Ryan and any production company that he would bring there would basically cost him 20% more because of his failures. Even though his name is not on there, because Ryan was one of the PGA producers and it was a failure of all the producers of this film, they're all cited. So it makes it harder for all of them to film in Vancouver. So when he filmed and Joy tragically died, filming did not stop at all. They just kept going. They took like one day off. But the same could not be said for something that happened in Vancouver on the movie Death Cure in 2016, Maze Runner: The Death Cure, when Dylan O'Brien was seriously injured in a stunt accident. The accident resulted in a concussion, facial fracture, and brain trauma. Following the incident, production of the film was halted, and O'Brien reflected on the incident, stating that he had safety concerns on set that were not respected. He mentioned that he has since become more cautious about stunts. He was pulled off a movie and hit by another vehicle, according to WorkSafe BC. And when this accident happened, Workplace BC and the government halted production, but they did not halt production for Deadpool 2. They just let them keep filming, which is wild, but it's because Deadpool was making Vancouver a lot of money. And if they were to halt filming, it would have cost the production company over $1 million a day, according to Fedek, to not film. So that's one incident, right? Where his production films that he is linked to and PGA of have a failure. Well, cut to 2021, 4 years later, and he is filming a movie called Spirited in the state of Massachusetts in Boston. And the film is supposed to be a musical, and it's supposed to be like the modern twist on a Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And it's the story of Ebenezer Scrooge, basically. This was filmed in Boston during the pandemic, and it was filmed over the course of 3 months, where the set and crew members were forced to work grueling hours. And for a period of at least most of the summer of July and August, record-breaking temperatures and heat advisory where temperatures were over 100 degrees plagued the set, leading to delays, leading to makeup melting, leading to heat exhaustion. And this film was being all over Boston for 3 months. And because of that, those long hours and having to go through those months of the heat, it was according to the behind the scenes for crew, not the safest work environment. Again, so in September of 2021, a crew member that was working on the transportation side, so basically the transportation side is they're in charge of getting everything to the set. They move everything, their trucks bring in what needs to be brought in. They are the fundamental part of getting things to the movie set. A man named Michael Gagnon tragically passed away suddenly on the set of Spirited. On September 22nd, 2021, Michael Gagnon passed away on the set of Spirited. If you try to find any documentation about this death, you will find nothing. You will find not even a story, not a news article, nothing. There wasn't even a response of like 911 responders to the set of a film, nothing. The only way you would find out that this individual passed away is because Teamsters, local Teamsters 25, which is a huge union for workers, and they have tons of different industries that they serve, including the movie division. They put out a statement on their Instagram, on their social media, on Facebook, and they put a post out, which on September 23rd, Teamsters Boston. Rest in peace, Michael Gagnon. Please keep the family of Teamsters Local 25 member Michael Gagnon in your thoughts and prayers during this very difficult time. Brother Gagnon died suddenly while working on set. He was a 23-year Teamster, having worked in the movie division and aggregate industries. He was a proud father, grandfather, Teamster, and friend to all, and he will truly be missed. And they had a photograph of his truck with a flag over it and flowers. And it would have appeared that he might have been using his truck cab to sleep, and it was parked on the set next to other people's trailers. So, at the movie Spirited was dedicated to Michael Gagnon, yet there was nothing really ever officially said about him. And if you were to try to Google right now anything about a tragedy or a death happening on the set, if you were to say like it was problems on the set of Spirited. Yesterday I did this and it told me that there was extreme heat during filming. That was the challenge that they faced. The movie was filmed in Boston in very hot weather with temperatures reaching 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The shoot was physically demanding for the actors and actresses. Nothing about crew members, nothing of the sort. Michael Gagnon's name doesn't come up. So I got this tip from someone a couple months ago, and it was like, well, that's weird. So I ended up doing some more research, and I found newsletters from Boston's Teamsters. And in one of the newsletters, they talked about a memorial. And they said on April 28th, we held our annual Workers' Memorial Ceremony, and sadly, 2 names were added to the memorial: Paul Woodward and Michael Gagnon, both who were members of the movie division. We will continue to fight for safety protocols in contracts to honor their memory. Fight for safety protocols in contracts. And you know what's amazing is that Michael Gagnon's family, in lieu of flowers and donations and money for them, they asked people to donate to the Teamsters Autism Fund because they raise money for autism. Everyone in the comments on all of these posts described Michael as a wonderful man, hard worker. There was also a memorial that was set up for his family to manage the costs of the funeral, and it says proud active member Michael Gagnon passed away suddenly while working on a movie on September 22nd, 2021. He was a 23-year Teamster working at aggregate industries before moving to the movie division. In lieu of flowers, his family would like you to make donations to Teamsters Local 25 Autism Fund. Since 2007, Teamsters have helped more than 100 autism organizations throughout New England. And then they shared a picture of the annual memorial that I just told you about and said, this year we honored the lives of 2 local 25 movie division members who died this past year. Paul Woodward died of COVID-19. He was 40-year Teamster, having worked as an oil truck driver and in the movie division. Michael Gagnon died suddenly while working on the set of September 22nd, 2021. Mike was a 23-year Teamster, having worked for Aggregate Industries and also in the movie division. And then Brother Woodward and Brother Gagnon are the reason we fight, and we will continue to fight for better and safer working conditions. They didn't say why Michael Gagnon died or how he died. He just died while he was working. Well, because there was nothing there, and because there's no articles about it, and you've got the Teamsters through multiple documents saying we're going to keep fighting for Michael for better, safer work environments. I went to the court to find out what happened to Michael. Why wasn't this announced? According to his probate, you can't find out what his cause of death is, but probate records notes that his family did file an affidavit for a suspicious death, which was filed in March of 2022. He died without a will, and so his family needed to divide his assets. And in the state of Massachusetts, if someone dies under suspicious or unusual circumstances, generally you file what's called a suspicious death affidavit, and that's to make it known to the state that, listen, this person died under suspicious activity or something happened with his death that was suspicious, and it allows the state to do an investigation. And if, for instance, there was someone that were tied to it, they could ensure that that person who might be charged or indicted doesn't get access to the will. Now, there wasn't anyone in that case charged, but they still filed this death affidavit, the suspicious death affidavit. So obviously something happened on the set, and we don't know what it was. But we do know that now that's another death that's linked to Ryan Reynolds and his production companies. Both Maximum Effort were production companies on Deadpool 2. And I don't know why Maximum Effort wasn't cited, but maybe the big guns were 20th Century. And then Apple Studios was who put out Spirited, and Maximum Effort was listed as a production company for that film as well. So now you have two productions in the span of 4 years where either a stunt double or a crew member dies on the set. Filming on Spirited wrapped in October. And again, production was not shut down despite the fact that there was a death on the set. We know that on other movie sets, like on Rust, when Alec Baldwin, a gun was loaded that he didn't realize was loaded, and he shot and killed a cinematographer. That production was shut down. But Spirited continued. Deadpool 2 continued. There doesn't appear to be or have been any sort of workplace investigation for what happened to Michael Gagnon. There isn't even a news article about what happened to Michael Gagnon. Nothing. The only reason I found out about this was because one of my followers sent it to me and said, I just saw this when I was searching, and I noticed this was someone that was working on the set of Spirited. Ryan Reynolds donated a small amount of money to Michael Gagnon's memorial. And I believe at the time the film came out, Ryan and Will said something about Michael, or the film was dedicated to him, something. But audiences still didn't really understand why the film was dedicated to him, because the production company didn't say what happened. Nobody knew why or who Michael Gagnon was and why was the film dedicated to him. And Spirited was a direct to Apple release. So it's an Apple Films original, meaning it doesn't have a hugely wide distribution. It's not a theatrical movie. It wasn't released in theaters. It was a streaming movie. So is it the fact that the film itself was not a huge film? Was it that the death was just heat exhaustion or a stroke or a heart attack? We don't know. We don't know because there's no information about it. And yet it's again a second death on a set. And it's on the set of a film where a previous film by the same production company was so negligent that a stunt woman died tragically. And 20th Century Fox settled with Joy Harris's family for an undisclosed amount after fighting tooth and nail and claiming they did nothing wrong. In the face of a report by Workplace BC, they were forced to, I guess, put their tail between their legs and admit that they effed up. And again, Ryan's name isn't on any of this. Like, he skates responsibility, and yet Ryan is the face of Deadpool. Ryan is the face of Spirited. And you have two compete. You've got two film sets where the same man is a producer and his production company is producing it, and people on the set die. I don't know how common deaths are on sets. I don't think they're that common. And, I don't know what the circumstances were for Michael Gagnon, but it makes me sad that Hollywood would put profit in front of safety for people that aren't the stars. Could you imagine if they would have done something like that for, one of the stars? If the stars were forced to go through those grueling hours, or the stars were forced to, not have safety protocols, or the stars were forced to do their own stunts without risk assessment, it would never happen. But it would appear that for production companies tied to, Reynolds, if you're a small part of the film or a crew member, maybe corners get cut. I don't know. It's curious to me that the filming occurred in 2021 because we were still under a lot of restrictions across the country with COVID at the time. And, I find it interesting that 2021 was still pretty peak. Like, we were still dealing with lots of problems with COVID. And not a lot of production companies and movies were back working. And if they were under extremely restricted circumstances. Like, safety was key for not spreading COVID. So again, I find it odd that Ryan was filming a movie in the height of the pandemic, and then Miss Blake Lively is accusing Justin Baldoni of giving her COVID, even though she didn't get COVID from Justin. She got it from Ryan because Ryan got it from someone when he was filming Deadpool and Wolverine. And when Ryan filmed Deadpool and Wolverine, where did he go to film it? Mostly it was filmed in the UK and Georgia, not in Vancouver, not in Boston. Who's the person that has unsafe sets? Who is the person now that has two people that have died on his sets? Who is the person whose production company, was tied to the death of Joy Harris, but wasn't named in the report, but producers were fined $300,000 and found in violation of laws? Ryan Reynolds, who probably is an insurance liability in the movie industry. Ryan Reynolds. Is it any wonder why Ryan hasn't made films with really anyone but himself in the years, and why he's pivoting to marketing because, he doesn't want to be in film anymore? Or maybe it's just because Ryan can't get insurance because he's a liability. But how does he manage to cover this kind of stuff up? Is it really good PR? Is it scrubbing the internet of negative press? Is it ignoring the small people and their voices and their stories? I mean, the story of Joy Harris's death was huge in Canada. And obviously, I think that Ryan going back to Canada would be a huge story in terms of going back to Vancouver. And I've noticed now that he's pivoting, like he's going to Ontario all the time because of Toronto. And that's got a huge hub now for film. But it's like he's actually born and raised and from the Vancouver area. And now it's like nothing to do with them over there. They don't even exist. Well, it's because if he goes back, look at the crap he caused. Look at what they didn't do to protect their set, and look at the damage it caused. And ask yourself again, who is the one that has bypassing orientations, failing to investigate, failing to adhere to the basics of risk assessment to ensure that people on their set are safe? It's not Justin Baldoni. So as I said in the beginning, is this what is called deflection 101? If Ryan can't make movies, do we have to destroy our competitors? Maybe. But that's the second tragedy connected to him in 4 years. Makes you wonder how many other nameless, faceless people have been harmed on sets of movies where his production company is at the helm. If you know of any of those stories, or if there's rumors out there, make sure to let me know. But let me know what your thoughts are about this in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.